I hope that after hearing Dr. Aziz Amin talk to you about the floppy, that you know there is something even before the floppy. I must be the Neanderthal on the program today. And you have to understand that I was born in 1936, so that I'm on the verge of 80 years old. And at that time, the best recording we had was a crank phonograph. And I used to play that in my grandfather's dining room and conduct the Italian in Algiers overture by Rossini. I'd stand on a little bench to do that. If you come into my, oh, by the way, my talk is the spiritual journey. What is it? Diversity in the spiritual journey, okay? If you come into my room, my sitting room at home, you would see that I have two little statues there. They're priceless to me. One is an image of Pinocchio, the Disney form of Pinocchio, and Jiminy Cricket. They have been favorites of mine for years, simply because they represent, to me, the whole process of going from something like a marionette to becoming a real person. And involved in that, of course, is the development of your own conscience, which presumes that you're looking for the truth and that you are able to ask why. Why? Why? I think that's been the question that has plagued me all my life, trying to unpack why. But that's not the image I'm going to use with you today. I woke up at 3:30 this morning worried about this, coming in here, as I forget who else was here that said they were worried. But, you know, my worry is dissipated as soon as I see your faces, and as soon as we engage eye to eye. So I thought this, how being tossed in a salad and sharing a plate of spaghetti shaped what I am and what my worldview is. Now let me tell you a little bit about that. Who would have imagined that a little boy born on January 3rd, 1936, would ever be at the University of St. Thomas in Texas, mind you. University of Thomas in Texas, having founded and directing a Center for Faith and Culture. So let me tell you a little bit about the journey and how I got here. The reason I'm sitting on this stool is because I want to be more intimate with you, and it's not because I'm tired, because I'm old. I was the grandson of Italian immigrants, already two cultures, Tuscans and Abruzzesi. And you have to understand the two different regions of Italy to understand that already I was introduced by my birth who I was. I didn't ask for it. It was given to me. It was a gift that I came into this situation with these two families. I was born and raised in the Monongahela Valley, which is one of the three rivers in the Pittsburgh area, along which were steel mills for miles. In fact, the town I grew up in had the largest coke-producing plant in the world. That is not coke. That is coke. If this is live stream, get that clear. I think, in that valley, and how I became a member of the Congregation of the Holy Spirit and then became the founder of the Center for Faith and Culture. Now, I was born in Monessen, multicultural. The town built up around the mill which had been founded by Andrew Carnegie. And because my father had to travel far to work, he worked in another mill, we moved 12 miles. 12 miles. That was long in those days, mind you. It was long. So we went to a place called Clairton. And it was a situation in which I found diversity every day. It's 3 miles, three square miles for this town. And in those 3 square miles, there were 26,000 inhabitants. We had different churches. It was a melting pot, but it was also a mixed salad. We had Episcopal, Presbyterian, Methodist, three diverse Catholic, ethnically diverse Catholic churches, Byzantine Catholic Church, Greek Orthodox Church, Lutheran Church, Jewish Synagogue, African American churches. Immediately, Clairton was what Houston has become today, the forecast of what the United States will become with all the immigration coming in. Now, naturally, the people going to those churches were very diverse as well. Slovak, Croatian, Serbian, Hungarian, Northern European, Mediterranean, Jewish, African American, Irish, Italian, Polish, German, French, Finnish, just to name a few. Where did it all come together? Where would this salad put together? The ingredients for this salad? In the high school. We had no Catholic schools in the town. All of my education was in public education, and it was wonderful. We had diversity of the faculty, and we had diversity of students. On top of that, I had wonderful, diverse friends. The son of the Presbyterian minister was my closest friend in my teens. I would go to his house, and he would come to my house. And can you imagine going into a Scottish Presbyterian house as opposed to a crazy Italian house? Back and forth. We would go into each other's churches, and I would say to him, "Why don't you have an altar?" And he would say to me, "Why do you have one?" We would discuss things like who can be saved, who can't be saved. We would also get into things like predestination. We'd have to ask each other these questions, and we really knew that we were deep friends. Besides him, I was also the friend of the son of the Byzantine priest. So already we had some priests who were married, having children, and I had to cope with that a bit myself. Catholics didn't look too favorably on scout troops, so I became a member of the scout troop in the Methodist church. And the scoutmaster became a Methodist minister, so I had to learn about that and learn how they were different from Episcopalians and how they had methods for developing their spirituality. And besides that, two of my best friends in high school were African-American guys, Willie Lucas and Willie Benjamin. One became a dentist, and the other became a high official in government in Washington. Coming back and forth to each other's houses, playing together in the band, marching in the band for football games and all those kinds of things. We didn't have a sense of tension racially. There was probably, as in every culture, there's some kind of racial discrimination, but we didn't experience that. I never felt that way. We even had diversity of politics. The mayor of the town lived across the street from me. Butch, his son, was another one of my good friends. And he was a Democrat. He was in office for 24 years. Most progressive kind of guy you could get. I got the distinction at an early age between management and unions and the tensions that were going on there. But it was always done in such a way that even in spite of the strikes that were going on in the late 40s and early 50s in the steel industry, we also always had a sense that we were in it together, that we could work things out, that we could cross boundaries and still retain our identity. And all of this contributed to forcing me to a deeper identity than the narrow boundaries of what some people considered to be Catholic. I moved from Catholic with a capital C to Catholic with a small c, indicating that we had to look for wholeness. We had to look for things that brought us together. We had to look at how we could seek the common good in common and remain good neighbors in building up what we were sharing by way of a situation. In those days, all of my relatives were Democrats. We had the portrait of the patron saint in every house, Franklin Roosevelt. He just hung on that wall, and my grandparents thought he was the best thing on the face of the earth that was helping us to develop in those days. Now, who were the chefs, helping us find the kind of dressing for this salad? All of my teachers, and particularly my first teachers, my mother, my father, and my grandparents. I wish you could have met my grandmother, my maternal grandmother. I wish you had the opportunity to meet my mother. Great people. One example. We were still going to school in the day when we said the Our Father in the morning. We read from the scriptures and so forth and so on. Even there were Jews in the class and, whole variety of Protestants. So we went to catechism one day. We went every Wednesday and the sisters came from another town to teach us catechism. They were really strict. And so the sister says to Richard White, remember it like it was yesterday. She said, Richard, stand up and pray the Our Father for us. So he gets up and he answers, and he's then, for thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory. She said, stop that. Everybody shakes, of course. That's Protestant. You don't do that. So I go home, and I'm really shaken up. I said to my mother, this happened. She says, forget it. Poor sister. She should catch up with the times. She said, if you go to the Protestant church, they're going to welcome you in, and you say, for thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory with them. It's a prayer. You pray the prayer. These, and when I would meet my mom, and we would discuss things about diversity, she said, wouldn't it be dull if everybody was alike? Now, I didn't understand that at the time. I would have preferred that everybody be like me, shaped in my image and likeness, but that's really not what it is. We ultimately wake up one day and we say we're all shaped in the image and likeness of God, and that is the basis of our dignity. That we have a mind that you were talking about. That we can create that mind, that we can create a conscience, we can form our conscience, we can know the good, we can seek the good, we can make judgments about what is right and do it. That's our dignity as human beings, and that's where we meet in all of our diversity. So these were the chefs. I didn't know whether it was vinaigrette, whether Italian oil and vinegar, whatever it was. They were putting on all of these components of this mixed salad. So I go to post-secondary education, right? I go to the University of Pittsburgh. I'm studying American history, and I'm not really clear on where I want to go. I had indications that I wanted to be a priest all over when I was 7 and 8 years old. It started growing. I put it out of my mind. Saw a nice girl, and I thought I was going that way, and then I thought I'd do this. I was playing an instrument. I thought I should take music, and then I take history. I still don't know what I'm doing. And all of a sudden, the light comes on. Why don't you go investigate this thing about being a priest? So I started looking around. I read the life of St. Francis. Hey, anybody reads the life of St. Francis, you fall in love with this. This is what you want to do. Give up everything. Take all your clothes off just like he did before the Bishop of Assisi and stand there nude. So I go and investigate, and I knew I wanted to be in a community of priests, and I went to the Capuchins, and I'm just ready to sign on the line for entrance. And I served Mass in my home parish, and there was a priest visiting that day. And he said, I guess, what are you going to do? I said, well, I'm thinking of going into the priesthood. Oh, yeah. He said, why don't you come over to my house tonight? My mother will have spaghetti. So I go over. And he said, you don't want to go to the Capuchins. I said, I don't? He said, no, you want to come to us. I said, who are you? He said, we are the congregation of the Holy Spirit, breathing out the Spirit of God. He said, just come to our seminary. I'll make a phone call here, and we'll set it all up, and you can go. He made the phone call. 2 days later, I'm on a train going to Philadelphia to study for these. I don't even know who they are. I get there, and I find out they are a missionary congregation. They go to 67 different countries. They're going to different cultures. I'm saying, whoa. This is not what I had intended. I felt I was going to just be a little fry. You see them in those movies and westerns where they come in and they found a mission. I could handle that. Another thing, go to Africa, go to South America, go to Brazil, go on the Amazon. That is not for me. Well, you grow. And you're exposed, and you have to stretch. And you have to look at new perspectives. Your worldview begins to expand. You begin to struggle with others and see the beauty in their particular cultures. And then you begin to understand that even this, what we believe as Christians, has to be inculturated in a whole variety of wonderful cultures throughout the world. And that's what I did. So I went there, went to the seminary, finished 6 years of philosophy and theology, and then they say you can request where you want to go. Oh, request. Send me to Puerto Rico. I can handle Spanish. Okay. The order comes back, Rome. Me? Rome? Do what? Study. What? Theology. What kind of theology? Whatever you want. Go. So I go to Rome, and you know when it was? Right during the Second Vatican Council. Oh, you can imagine 2,500 bishops from every culture of the world in Rome. Lectures every day by great theologians. All of these debates going on about what is the church? How does the church relate to the world? What's happening here? How do we handle all these major problems coming up? And little roly-poly Pope John the 23rd, the good Pope, says, boop, 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 boop. We have to have unity and holiness. That's what the council is all about. And yet there were thorny problems. How do we relate to Jews? How do we relate to Muslims? How do we relate to our separated brethren? What are we meant to do in the world? How do we respond to the economic questions of the world, the family questions of the world? How do we respond to threats to peace in the world? How is it that we exist? I was there for 3 years with these wonderful debates going on in my own congregation, which had members from 40 countries. And I'm living in a community with 25 countries represented, constantly stretching you, constantly raising your sensitivity about what they really hold true, what they're sensitive of, what do they see as good. Naturally, you're invested, and you're introduced to all these kinds of foods along the way, according to our first speaker today. Do I know holushki? I do. Do I know cherigis? I do. Do I know ravioli? Certainly. And tortellini, I make them myself. So here we are. Finished my doctorate, and I did my doctorate in Quakerism. I lived 2 years in England, living with the Quakers, going to their meetings, learning about their peace efforts throughout the world. Again, stretched, beautifully stretched. Giving a deeper sense of my own identity as a Catholic, but also understanding where we had the common ground to be able to relate to each other. And then I finished my doctorate, and they sent me back to Duquesne University to teach in 1971. You know what's happening in 1971? The civil rights movement, upheaval. You're too young. You don't have any of this experience. I have to try to make it real for you. The civil rights, Vietnam War upheaval. And I go into a 101 theology required class, freshman. Trembling, sweating bullets, because I'm supposed to make a connection between theology and a Christian worldview and what they're going through. These were some of the faces. And I went back to the chairman of the department and I said, I can't do this the way you want me to do this according to the syllabus. I have to enter into their experience. So I said, you let me call this course the Christian understanding of the human person. And I want to go into all their questions about evil, about their identity, where they are in their own human development, and try to see them that the essence of this message is love. That the whole goal of Jesus' ministry is, may they be one. Diversity in unity, not unity in uniformity, but diversity in unity. In a republic whose constitution claims that it is seeking a more perfect union, a pluribus unum. And how can we bring these two worlds together? So I stopped one guy going out of class one day, and I said to him, Mr. Ari, I said, you seem to have a problem with it. I don't believe any of this crap you're teaching. Oh. I mean, it's something to knock the air out of you. You want to run away. You wonder whether you should really stay in the classroom. And I said, well, look, let's make a deal. Pretend you're a Muslim and you're learning about Christians. You're going to learn from me about what Christians believe. And then you give it back to me on a test, and you get your A. Okay? We did that. Later on, years later, I saw him in the back of a church when I was going in a procession. I said, what are you doing here? Those are the kind of experiences that I had. Then I worked for my religious congregation internationally. I visited many, many countries, many cultures, to understand what it is that we have to do and how God is already working in those cultures, and how it is that we have to open ourselves to receive what God is revealing to us through those cultures, and also make our contribution with a Catholic voice. Because it's all about love. And for the Catholic, that is sacrificial love. That is not self-referential love. It is love which transcends the self to go out to the other, that makes you understand that you reach out to embrace others and enter into what one of our other speakers was referring to, but I'll say it in this way, in the words of John Paul II, living a spirituality of communion, which means that I see you as a gift to me, and I see myself as a gift to you, and that without you, I'm incomplete. That the essence of the spiritual life is to be open, actively receiving others and what God is giving by way of gift. This has been part of my journey. This is what shapes me. This is what brought me through that plate of spaghetti to this moment. Believe me. It's what helps you to understand vocation beyond career. Because when you reach down inside of you, you will hear that voice which gives you direction for your lifelong journey. And it becomes wonderful. It even becomes wonderful in the down moments. The economy can go down. You can be at rock bottom. Your floor can seem to be falling apart. And believe me, I forgot to tell you this. I was president of Duquesne University for 8 years. It was a rough road for 8 years. We were in major change in the university, and when any change comes about, you are going to get resistance, and you are going to get pockets of people coming to pull the rug out from under you. When you have to replace vice presidents, when you have to replace deans, when you have to go through all of that, asking yourself constantly, what constitutes a Catholic university where it can meet all the standards of intellectual pursuit and still take the faith and relate it to what is true? Because faith must represent that which is universal. And what we get in all of the arts, all of the sciences, of all of these wonderful professors in this university seeking their own discipline, as you heard from Dr. Shields over here. It's wonderful. It's a wonderful journey. And we don't have to be afraid. And I'm getting the signal that I have to cut it. They used to do that to me when I was giving homilies. So what I'm going to leave you with? What do I really want to leave you with here? Questions. How do we form a more perfect union in our diversity in this country? That's what constitutes us. Did you know that? That's what constitutes us. Secondly, because God still so loves the world, how do we contribute as Christians to Christ's desire that all may be one? Now that's for your meditation. And finally, with these two questions at heart and before our eyes at all times, what does it mean to be a faithful citizen? Come to the Center for Faith and Culture. If you're looking for meaning, Come to us. We love to pursue it with you. And we have a table set, 4 legs. 1 leg, master degree in faith and culture. 2nd leg, ecumenical and interreligious dialogue and outreach. 3rd leg, pastoral institute for helping people in Catholic parishes to raise this question and address it about what it means to be a faithful citizen. And the 4th leg, ongoing adult continuous education. The table is set. Maybe what we have to do is just eat more spaghetti. Thank you.